More breaking news in the Terri Schiavo case. Her parents, it seems, have only one hope left: the U.S. Supreme Court. If Terri's life is going to be saved, the court would have to act fast, as in now, or certainly within the next day or two.
What you're saying is because something unethical happens all the time, therefore it's okay.
I'm just asking if you think it's unethical all the time.
Here's what I believe. I believe there's a difference between prolonging life and prolonging death.
But Terri's parents refuse to accept the court's findings, and so do many others.
There is no right to die under the federal constitution, the state constitution, or under any moral claim. One needs to look no further than the Ten Commandments for the timeless and controlling moral principle that should govern the outcome of this claim. And please say it with me: thou shalt not kill.
The group that wants to protect traditional marriage with a constitutional amendment still needs tens of thousands of signatures to get the issue on a ballot. Local and state leaders endorsing the efforts of FloridaForMarriage.org met in Longwood and other cities today. The group has 22 days to collect the signatures it needs. One local church leader said he's not against anyone, but he is against the broken families he believes same-sex marriages cause.
The interesting dynamic here is that same-sex marriage will never be established by the people, by a democratic process of representative democracy. Right. It'll only happen through the courts. And so that's why you see all this big battle around the country, nationally and even in the state of Florida, on electing good judges, appointing good judges, because the court has usurped its authority. We have a constitutional crisis every day when judges ignore the limitations of their power, and they usurp the legislative process and basically usurp the sovereignty of the people of the state of Florida by ignoring the laws that have been enacted by their representatives.
People are not going to be given a choice about voting for gay marriage. Again, whether this amendment...
That's not right, dear.
It is.
You're being intellectually dishonest here on live television.
No, I'm not. Listen,
you know this is a gay marriage ban. That's what it's about.
If this amendment,
you guys can't win if you talk about gay marriage.
This has nothing to do with winning.
So you're having to refocus it on something else.
Marriage could now be part of Florida's Constitution. Amendment 2, that defines it as one man and one woman, appears headed for passage. The latest numbers show the measure carrying 63% of the vote. Supporters in Orange County watched the returns tonight at First Baptist Church of Central Florida. Thousands of churches across the state organized to pass the issue.
We have to, as a society, hold marriage sacred. We have to hold it up as an idea, as an institution, and say this is something we protect, we aspire to, and that's what the people are saying tonight.
And as you can see, so far, 63% of voters supported Amendment 2. It needs 60%.
In this case, you're advocating on regard for the child. Why?
Well, no rights are absolute, and obviously, if you're in danger, whether it's for abuse or abandonment or neglect, the state has an interest in protecting children, and so the state has taken custody of Berry because of the threat to her life, really, that's presented not just by her parents, but what concerns me more is by the intensely extreme Muslim community that surrounds the Columbus area where she lives.
The interesting thing, could have to go home to her parents?
It's possible if they lose the dependency case, but it seems very unlikely because the issue here is there a conflict between the child and the parents? And there obviously is a conflict.
Actor Ben Stein is choosing sides in Florida's fight over teaching evolution in schools. Stein may be best known for his role as a boring teacher in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
They need to be taught the strengths and the weaknesses of all scientific theories and let the chips fall where they may.
Urging lawmakers to pass the Academic Freedom Bill, protecting students and teachers from penalties if they question evolution in the classroom.
Stein joined Florida Family Policy Council members to support legislation that allows Florida teachers to teach information that contradicts the theory of evolution.
How did life begin? How did the organizing principles that govern life, such as gravity, thermodynamics, physics in general, where did those laws come from? Where did those governing principles come from?
So our point is that when the law derives, when a prohibitory law stopping the freedom of another human being derives from religion, then it's unconstitutional. Prohibitory laws have to be based, it couldn't be anything else, because otherwise we lose our freedoms.
For instance, the belief that life begins at conception, that's a scientific belief. That's a human being. Now the issue is personhood. It's clearly a human being. It's not a duck. It's not a Buick.
It's not a full-form
It's a human
person.
being.
It may be human tissue,
and
but
that's
it's
a
not
scientific
full-form
issue. You don't need to be a religious person to understand.
But a Catholic.
Marked red for yes or blue for no, members of the community sat divided at City Hall. A packed house, half supporting, half opposing an anti-discrimination bill.
That is sex-based discrimination.
We need less regulations, not more.
Here in Duval County, tens of thousands of voters signed petitions to support that marriage amendment, and over 250,000 voters actually voted it into office in Jacksonville. I rise today to strongly oppose the current proposed ordinance and pledge to this body to formally organize our supporters in opposition to it. Secondly, this ordinance also violates the religious liberties and rights of conscience of hundreds of thousands of Jacksonville residents.
By your action, you have denied 2012-296.
Even opponents of the legislation were floored by the final 17-2 margin that defeated the bill.
I was very surprised.
Scouts and pack leaders opposed to lifting the ban on openly gay members lined the road outside the National Council meeting. The protest was organized by John Stemberger. He's a scout leader from Orlando.
This will devastate the Boy Scouts. It'll devastate it legally, financially, and socially. And to inject sexuality and politics into the veins of scouting, it just is not right. Parents are not going to like that, and they're going to take their kids out. I am pulling my 2 kids out of scouting, very sadly and very disappointingly, because of this decision.
You think
whenever the BSA is going to put the interest of gay rights activists over that of the safety and security of my 2 sons, that's a proposition that I can no longer support as a parent.
You think that this outweighs all the other benefits of scouting?
Look, this is going to transform the program. Within 2 years, the 17-year-old boy who turns 18 will become a plaintiff in a suit. You'll have homosexuality throughout the entire program, not just young people, but adults too. Guarantee within 2 years, you mark my words, it'll happen within 2 years.
Alternative to the Boy Scouts, a new boys organization being developed will focus on, quote, Christian faith and values.
Florida Family Policy Council releasing the details of its new faith-based character development program for boys by teleconference on Tuesday.
First, from your standpoint, John, what are your thoughts on this issue coming up tonight? 2 policies that they're looking at.
Sure. Well, I think it's entirely inappropriate. You know, if people want to do this on their private time, that's fine. But public schools is no place for social experimentation with children. And if a second-grade teacher, Sam, has to turn into Sally, that shouldn't happen in elementary school or high school or any other place. The school needs to focus on reading, writing, and arithmetic, the basics, and stop this nonsense of pandering to a special interest group.
No teacher should ever feel like they're going to be fired from their job because of who they are.
Look,
it's the baseline for the conversation, and the district is empowered to create policy based on that.
A principal does not have the ability to reassign or to fire a teacher in a second grade, third grade, or elementary school if Sam becomes Sally through gender reassignment, through cross-dressing, whatever. That's clear on the face of the statute, and that's inappropriate. It should not be happening in public schools. We should be educating our children, not engaging in social experimentation. The Orange County public school system ought to be ashamed of themselves for even bringing this forward.